Windows 11 finally overtook Windows 10 in July 2025, hitting 53.5% market share. Microsoft celebrated. Then August happened. Windows 11 dropped to 49%. By December, it fell to 50.7%, losing over 3 percentage points in weeks. But here's what's really terrifying Microsoft. While Windows 11 stalls, Mac enterprise shipments jumped 15% in Q3 2025 alone. 96% of CIOs expect their Mac fleets to grow in the next 2 years. Apple now holds 65% of enterprise endpoints in surveyed companies. This isn't gradual market evolution. This is mass corporate defection during the Windows 10 end-of-life crisis. Bill Gates, retired for 17 years, returned for emergency meetings. When you see the internal numbers, you understand why. When Windows 10 support ended October 14, 2025, Microsoft anticipated a migration wave to Windows 11. What happened instead shocked Redmond executives. Windows 11 market share peaked at 55% in October, then collapsed to 50.7% by December, losing 5 percentage points in 8 weeks. Windows 10, officially unsupported, gained 2% market share in that same period. Users are choosing security vulnerability risk over Windows 11. That's embarrassing. But the catastrophe Microsoft fears most is happening simultaneously. Enterprise customers aren't just refusing Windows 11. They're migrating to Mac at unprecedented scale. McStadium's 2025 CIO survey reveals the exodus. 93% of U.S. CIOs report increased Apple device usage over the past 2 years. 59% describe that increase as significant. Mac shipments to enterprise grew 15% year over year in Q3 2025, while overall PC growth was only 8.1%. Apple now represents an average of 65% of enterprise endpoints in surveyed companies. That's not niche creative departments anymore. That's entire organizations choosing Mac as their primary platform. 96% of CIOs expect their Mac fleets to expand in the next 12 to 24 months. Microsoft's Windows dominance in enterprise is collapsing in real time. Sarah Mitchell runs a 45-person marketing agency in Austin. She's been Windows only since 1998, never considered alternatives. Used Adobe Creative Suite on Windows workstations, Microsoft 365 for collaboration, standard IT infrastructure. October 2025. Windows 10 support ended. Her IT manager evaluated Windows 11 upgrades. Cost estimate $67,000 for new hardware meeting TPM 2.0 requirements. Half her computers were 2019 models with perfectly functional Intel processors. Microsoft declared them obsolete. She asked about workarounds. Her IT manager explained the forced Microsoft account requirement, the mandatory telemetry, the recall AI monitoring feature. Sarah had client confidentiality obligations, NDA-protected campaigns, ad creative under embargo, Windows 11 screenshotting, everything violated those agreements. She looked at Macs. MacBook Air M3 models, $1,299 each. Total cost for 45 units, $58.45, less than Windows 11 compliance, no forced cloud accounts, no AI surveillance, no ads in the operating system. Migration took 6 weeks. Adobe apps run natively on Apple Silicon. Microsoft 365 works identically. Her team adapted in days. She doesn't miss Windows. Actually prefers Mac now. No update interruptions during client presentations. No random performance slowdowns. No telemetry uploading bandwidth in the background. The computers belong to her company again, not Microsoft's data extraction platform. That's happening across industries. David Chen operates a 22-person software development firm in Seattle. Python and JavaScript development, Docker containers, cloud infrastructure, historically Windows with Linux virtual machines. Windows 10 end of life forced a decision. He priced Windows 11 workstation upgrades, $48,000 for hardware, plus migration time, plus inevitable troubleshooting. Then he looked at the Windows 11 developer experience. Mandatory Microsoft account tied to development environment. Telemetry tracking code compilation. Performance benchmarks showed Windows 11 slower than Windows 10 in several developer workflows. His team voted. 18 out of 22 preferred switching to Mac. Total cost $51,000 for MacBook Pro M3 Max models. Native Unix terminal. Better Docker performance on Apple Silicon. No registry corruption issues. No Windows Update breaking dependencies. They migrated in January 2025. Productivity increased. Developers report fewer OS-level interruptions. Microsoft lost a 2-decade enterprise customer because Windows 11 made development worse, not better. Jennifer Okonkwo is CTO of a 200-employee fintech startup in New York. Security and compliance are existential. Her infrastructure was entirely Windows Server and Windows 10 workstations. October 2024, she evaluated Windows 11 for the 2025 migration. Read the TPM 2.0 requirement documentation. Discovered the TPM endorsement key creates a permanent device identifier Microsoft controls. Third-party access via API with minimal restrictions. That's a compliance nightmare for financial services. Then she learned about Recall, AI system that screenshots user activity for searchable history. Even with Microsoft's improvements after backlash, she couldn't trust it. Too many regulatory risks. One data breach from an AI logging feature could destroy the company. She ran the numbers. Windows 11 compliance for 200 workstations, $340,000 hardware, plus license renewals, plus increased security monitoring costs. Mac alternative, $380,000 for MacBook Pro fleet, $40,000 more upfront. But Mac offered something Windows 11 couldn't guarantee. No built-in surveillance systems. No forced cloud account sync of corporate data. No TPM tracking ID accessible to third parties. She switched her entire company to Mac between March and August 2025. Zero regrets. Security audit compliance improved. Her team prefers the workflow. Microsoft lost a $340,000 Windows refresh sale and a long-term enterprise customer because they prioritize data collection over user trust. The pattern is undeniable. Windows 10 end of life created a forced choice moment. Millions faced expensive Windows 11 upgrades requiring hardware replacement. Instead of complying, they evaluated alternatives for the first time in decades. Mac became the obvious refuge. The CIO survey data confirms it. Top drivers for Mac adoption, security and privacy ranked first at 59%. Employee preference also 59%. Hardware performance 54%. 65% of CIOs say Macs are easier to manage than Windows or Linux. That last statistic is devastating for Microsoft. IT departments, historically Windows loyal due to Active Directory and group policy, now find Mac easier to administer. Apple's device management tools matured. Microsoft's tools got more intrusive and complicated. Microsoft's strategic blunders created this crisis. The TPM 2.0 requirement locked out 50% of Windows 10 devices. Microsoft chose hardware partnerships over user retention, forced obsolescence to drive PC sales. Users rebelled. The mandatory Microsoft account requirement alienated privacy-conscious customers and enterprises with data sovereignty requirements. Recall AI, even after Microsoft fixed it, became a symbol of Microsoft's surveillance ambitions. Every Windows 11 feature announcement reinforced the narrative. Microsoft wants control, not to serve users. Meanwhile, Apple capitalized perfectly. Apple Silicon delivered genuine performance advantages. M-series chips run cooler, faster, with better battery life than comparable Intel systems. Native ARM architecture enabled on-device AI without cloud dependencies or privacy concerns. Businesses noticed. The McStadium CIO survey shows 73% of organizations using Macs rely on them for AI processing, surpassing iOS development at 68%. Apple positioned Mac as the secure, private AI platform. Microsoft positioned Windows 11 as the intrusive, cloud-dependent AI platform. Enterprises chose accordingly. Rob Braxman, cybersecurity expert who had software demoed by Gates in the 1990s, analyzed the TPM tracking mechanism. The endorsement key is permanent, unchangeable, tied to Microsoft accounts, accessible to third parties. He demonstrated live how device IDs get transmitted to Microsoft servers and accessed via API. This isn't security architecture. This is surveillance infrastructure. Microsoft built permanent tracking into the hardware requirement that locked out half their users. They created artificial obsolescence and embedded spyware simultaneously. That combination drove the enterprise exodus. Cost comparisons reveal Microsoft's miscalculation. A Windows 11 compliant workstation costs Y400 $2,800 depending on specs. MacBook Air M3 starts at $1,299. MacBook Pro M3 starts at $1,599. The price gap disappeared. Windows historically competed on cost. That advantage evaporated when Microsoft mandated new hardware. Businesses realized they could switch to Mac for comparable or lower cost while gaining better security, privacy, performance, and employee satisfaction. The value proposition flipped. Mac became the economically rational choice, not the premium luxury. Performance data sealed Microsoft's fate. Windows 11 is measurably slower than Windows 10 in several benchmarks. Boot times increased, application launches lag, background telemetry and OneDrive syncing consume resources constantly. Users with identical hardware report worse performance after Windows 11 upgrades. Microsoft promised optimization, delivered bloat instead. Mac, by contrast, shows consistent performance improvements with each generation. M3 benchmarks exceed M2, which exceeded M1. Apple delivers on performance promises. Microsoft breaks theirs. Enterprises notice. The developer community defected en masse. Stack Overflow surveys and developer forums show accelerating Mac adoption among programmers. Native Unix terminal, better Docker performance, no registry corruption, no Windows update breaking development environments. Windows historically dominated enterprise development due to .NET and Visual Studio, but .NET went cross-platform. Visual Studio Code runs on Mac. Azure Cloud Services are OS agnostic. Microsoft's developer lock-in evaporated. Without that anchor, developers chose the better tool, Mac. When developers switch, IT departments follow. This is how Microsoft loses the next generation of enterprise infrastructure. Bill Gates' involvement signals the severity. Gates hasn't actively managed Microsoft since 2008. He focuses on philanthropy, climate, health. For him to return to Windows strategy meetings means the board recognizes an existential crisis. Windows revenue still accounts for significant Microsoft income. Azure and cloud services dominate growth, but Windows licenses and ecosystem lock-in remain foundational. If enterprises migrate to Mac, Microsoft loses OS licensing revenue, Office 365 attachment rates decline, Azure integration weakens. The entire Microsoft ecosystem model depends on Windows dominance. That dominance is cracking. Market share projections are grim for Microsoft. Windows 11 lost 5% share in 2 months while officially supported. Windows 10 gained share despite end-of-life status. A Mac enterprise adoption grew 15% year over year, with 96% of CIOs planning expansion. If current trends continue, Mac could represent 75 to 80% of enterprise endpoints in surveyed sectors by 2027. Combined with Linux desktop gains and Chromebook enterprise growth, Windows could drop below 60% total desktop market share by 2028. That sounds impossible. Look at the data. It's happening right now. Microsoft can't stop this because they refuse to address root causes. They won't remove the TPM requirement because it would anger hardware partners. They won't eliminate forced Microsoft accounts because cloud revenue depends on ecosystem lock-in. They won't disable telemetry and recall because their AI strategy requires user data collection. Every problem driving users to Mac is a deliberate Microsoft strategic choice. Fixing Windows 11 would require abandoning their business model. They won't do it, so the exodus continues. Apple doesn't need to outmarket Microsoft. They just need to keep building what Windows 11 isn't: an operating system that serves users instead of harvesting them. No ads, no forced accounts, no AI spyware, actual performance improvements, privacy by design. These aren't premium features anymore. They're basic expectations Microsoft refuses to meet. Every CIO evaluating the Windows 10 migration sees the same calculation. Pay Microsoft for surveillance and forced obsolescence, or pay Apple for a tool that works. 65% are choosing Apple. That number will grow. The prophecy writes itself. By 2028, Windows enterprise dominance ends. Mac and Linux combined could represent majority share in knowledge work sectors: software development, creative industries, finance, legal, consulting. Microsoft will retain manufacturing, logistics, specialized vertical software environments. But the profitable, high-value enterprise segments? Gone to Mac. The Windows 10 end of life will be studied in business schools as the moment Microsoft's greed exceeded user tolerance. They had 400 million loyal customers. They demanded those customers buy new hardware, accept surveillance, surrender privacy, tolerate worse performance. Millions said no. Millions more will follow. If this opened your eyes to why Windows enterprise dominance is ending, share it. Microsoft won't admit the crisis publicly. They'll report cloud revenue growth, talk about AI integration, claim Windows 11 adoption is progressing. But CIOs know the truth. IT managers see the migration requests. Employees are demanding Macs. The data doesn't lie. 93% increased Mac deployment, 96% plan expansion, 65% of endpoints already switched. This is the largest enterprise platform migration since the PC revolution. And Microsoft caused it themselves by choosing control over service, surveillance over trust, and profit over users. That's what killed Windows enterprise dominance. And that's what Bill Gates can't fix, because fixing it would require Microsoft to become a different company entirely.